you mark, get set. Yes, sir. That's what I'm doing. You good? Go ahead, grab my list, please. Please. Emily.
What is the answer to number 7?
Number 7 is a squared b cubed plus a b squared. See, Morgan.
You do 12.
I do it? I'm not 100% sure I can do it, but I will try. Oh, this one could be the easiest one of all. Did I lead people astray on number 12? I don't think I did. Ladies and gentlemen, and this would be for your notes. The only thing they're asking you to do on this is say what cannot this letter A be to make it an undefined thing. In other words, they're asking you, you can never get a 0 on the bottom of a fraction. So they're saying, if A was what number would you get a 0 on the bottom? Because you can't have that. When is A plus 5? What would A be that would give you a 0? And if you're looking for the easy fix, just make it an equation. When is A plus 5 equal to 0? Subtract 5, subtract 5. A cannot be negative 5. Because a negative 5 plus 5 gives you 0. And the commandment number 1 over there strictly forbids zeros in the denominator of all fractions. Although you could have 0 over 0, but that is neither here nor there. That's the only question. Good. Let's go. Siller. Oh, Miller.
I'm confused on why number 4 is 3n is greater than 5 and not n plus 3 is greater than 5.
That is a huge question. Mostly because the word product in math means
Multiplication.
if this would have said sum of a number and 3 is greater than 5, then it would be cool. Just because there's an and there does not mean it's addition. This tells you what you're doing. Product means multiplying. So you're taking 3 times a number. And this is the way we write it, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't write 3 times n is 5. Please don't write n3. This is just the acceptable form there. Product is multiplication. Only 2 questions today? I love it. Let's just go. Chase.
Number 5.
How do I do it? That's a great question. Let's do it over here. Maybe you can enlighten me as to where things go south. Oh, sorry, there's no n squared. It's just n times. Chase, what part of this gives you fits? Did you do the distributive property?
Yeah.
So the simplification of it gave you trouble?
Yes.
So we take this times this, right? What's m squared times m squared? Chase? M to the 4th. What's n times n squared? N to the 3rd. I believe that was part of the answer, was it not? Take the addition sign. You multiply this thing times that fraction as well. What do you get when you multiply m squared times 2? I believe that's n cubed. You get 2 m squared n cubed, correct? And on bottom, what do you get when you multiply n times x? xn. Can you do any more with that? Well, yes, you can. What's the only thing that you can cross cancel there? There is one thing. Madison?
And then
Right. Since these both have n's, this is 3 n's and that's 1 n, you can cross off that 1 with those, making this a squared. And then that is simply all. At some point, we'll be able to make those fractions and add them together, but at this point, not so much. Emmy?
how do you think number 12?
All right. The beautiful thing here is, Emily, they gave you the equation already, correct? So you know this is your equation. 2 times x plus 3 times y is 150. If I was you, I would write down what the letters stand for. X is number of bagels, and y is the number of muffins. Find the intercepts. Are you struggling with finding the intercepts? Because remember, to find intercepts, you just cover up. If you want to find the y-intercept, you cover up the x term. Really what you're doing is you're putting 0 in for x, because it goes away then. So if 3y equals 150, 3 times what gives you 150? 3 times, if you have the equation 3y equals 150, yikes, and you divide by 3, you divide 150 by 3, and y equals 50. So the y-intercept equals 50. You do the same thing for x. You put 0 in for y, you get 2x equals 150. Well, if 2x equals 150, you divide by 2, you divide by 2, you get 75. Those are your intercepts. And then the rest of the question said, what does that mean? Well, the y-intercept, because this term went away, the y-intercept means I had 0 bagels and I sold all muffins. The other way, and the y-intercept means, wait, did I say that? The y-intercept is 0 bagels and all muffins. The x-intercept is 0 muffins and all bagels. I think I said that right. Because you're putting zeros in for those things. Does that help? Emily Anderson. Caleb, are you going to ask me nice, or are you going to order me to do something like you did Emily bought with your pencil bag?
Nicely.
I thought so. Yes, sir.
Could you please do problem 16?
I would love to do 16. Love it. Negative 3n equals 2n plus 5. Ladies and gentlemen, do not let all of this gobbledygook confuse you. Remember what your ultimate goal is. You want to get the letter n by itself. The problem with this is there's 2 things that have n's with them. But that's not really a problem at all because you can put those 2 things together, correct? Can I not put negative 3n with 2n? Well, yes and no, I can't. I can't like it is because they're on different sides of the equal sign. But you being 8th graders understand that you can move things from one side of an equal sign to the other side of an equal sign simply by doing what? Thank you. You do the opposite. Okay. Now I could move this 3n over here, but that would cause a small problem because then both of my stuffs is already on the same side of the equal sign. I might just as well take this 2n and move it over there so that I already have 1 on 1, 1 on the other. Opposite of a plus 2n is subtract 2n. And here's where people kind of go awry. If I have minus 3n and I subtract 2 more n's from that, negative 5n. Because what is minus 3n? It means you have 3 negative n's. And if I put 2 more negative n's with it, that's a total of 5 negative n's. And then that equals this 5. How do I solve this equation? Divide by negative 5, divide by negative 5, and equals negative 1. Probably, wait, I'm going to fix this. Hold on. I think we have. Oh, no, I don't. I really thought I would have. Get rid of Chrome. Well, I love Chrome, it is a bumming hog. Oh, this one too. This DLL host. That's a terrible thing. I'm surprised nobody asked about number 17. But we can move on. Chase.
Page number 17.
Oh, what a great question. First thing, it's really the same thing as what we just did, Chase. The only difference is I need to get rid of this parenthesis. How do I get rid of that parenthesis? Chase. Ladies and gentlemen, parentheses should automatically make you say Layton. Anytime you see parentheses, you want to get rid of them. It's starts with a D, ends with a distributive, has a property. Yeah. What are you going to distribute out this time? Just this minus sign or a -1. It doesn't matter how you look at it. So this 3z is going to stay. I take -1 times both of those things, gives me a -2 and a plus z. -1, -z, multiplied positive z. -5 equals 9. Now what, you ask?
Now what he asked.
Now you have to, before you do anything with moving stuff around, simplify these things. What can I combine here? Anderson, I have 3 z's and another z, that's 4z. I have a -2 and a -5. That, Connor Morgan, puts together to give me a -2 and a -5. I've already done my z's. 3z and 1z gave me a 4z. Oh, 1z. -2 and a -5. When you put those together, you get -7. And that equals 9. And look how easy it is from here. What's the next thing I'm going to do? Get rid of this by moving it to the other side. So I add 7. Add 7, I get 16. 4z equals 16. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. Z equals 4. Surprised nobody asked me to do number 18 or 15 yet. So, that's a great question. Where'd it go? I'm sorry. 18 is really the same thing. Again, your goal is to get letters on one side, numbers on the other. So what should I move? What do I need to get rid of? What has to go where? Clause saying? Right. Because I don't want to move my 6a over here because then I got to move my. You could. It just messes up the water. You might just well take this -1 and put it over there by doing the opposite. Add 1. Whoa. Add 1 to 3. I get 4. -6a equals 4. How do I get the letter A by itself, Joseph? How do I get this A by itself? Huh?
You get rid of 6.
I get rid of the -6. How do I get rid of that -6?
Plus 6.
I do not plus 6 because this is multiplication. -6 times A gives me 4. Divide by -6. Thank you very much. Divide by -6. So A then will equal -4/6, which reduces to -2/3. Dude, you just can't buy this kind of entertainment anywhere. 19, Sophia, was that what you were asking? No. 15. 15 first. Sure we can't just do 19 without the board? No. And this is why you take notes, ladies and gentlemen. Wait, who was it? Somebody said, why can't I do something? Who was it yesterday? Somebody said, why can't I multiply by 2? I said, maybe you can do that if you can figure out how that works. I'm just not sure how that works with this. 7 times 2. You know, it probably works like this. Wait, let's see if this works. This one's what I thought. I don't know, should I do it or skip it?
Do it. Do it.
All right. You know that you can multiply this by 2 to get 14, right? So technically, I suppose you could multiply the 5 times 2. Well, the 5 times 2 is 10, correct?
Yeah.
But that 10 has to get multiplied, oh boy. That 10 has to get multiplied by that 10. I'm going to find a place for it. That 10 has to get multiplied by both of those things, and you get k minus 2. And I'm not sure whether that gets k. 10k. See, this is getting all mucked up here. Does that give me, was the answer 2?
Why wouldn't you take 10 minus 2?
Yeah, see, that's why I don't. I'm a Miller, I'm just saying forget that. This is my strong suggestion. Maybe there's some way you can figure out how it works, but I don't want to do that. That's why you can do it that way, but I just can't. Oh, I know. I do know what it is, but let's not do that. The way you should do this is simply this. Anytime you don't know how to do the whatever thing is cross multiplication, you need to take 7 times k minus 2, and that has to equal 5 times 14. Are you with me picking up what I'm laying down? I think we could actually go the other way too in a minute. And then Leighton will tell you anytime you see parentheses, you're probably going to use what, Leighton?
Distribute.
There we go. 7k minus 14 equals 5 times 14 is 70. And then you will, to solve this, a lot of equations, by the way, on this test. So I hope you know equations. 70 plus 14 is 84. And that equals 7k. Divide by 7, divide by 7, you get 12. You want to go the other way? Or will that just confuse you? I agree. Holy cow. Chase, you weren't even here this morning. Emma Miller,
So
are you sick? Orthodontist? Orthodontist? Did you get braces?
No,
Do you have braces?
No.
Oh, you're going to have to get braces?
I never can.
I am firmly believing that these people tell you you need braces whether you do or not. I'm a firm believer in that. Wait, did I wear braces?
What?
Did I wear braces?
Yes. Yes,
My
you
teeth
did.
not perfect.
Really, look perfect.
Well, how do you think they got perfect?
From
Born
braces.
with it.
I did not read
Born
braces.
them.
I just wanted to see what you said. Yes, Emma Miller, I'm sorry. Wait, or did I ask you, Chase? Is it the same question? Emma?
Well, with number 5, I did it out normally, but then I don't understand when you said that the answer is the n does not equal 0, and x does not equal 0.
Oh, wait, what? Did I do? It's right here?
Yeah, but I'm confused on why.
The rule of this is this. Because of that thing over there, anytime you do math, you can never have a 0 on the bottom of a fraction. So you have to say to yourself, when will this fraction have a 0 on the bottom? When n is 0. If n was 0, if I gave you numbers to put into this, if I told you n was 0, you could not do this because 0 times 0 times 0 gives you a 0, and you can never have a 0 on the bottom of the fraction. Same thing here. You put an x of 0 there. Anytime they ask you what, oh, they didn't ask you, I won't care, I won't make you answer that tomorrow. Anytime they ask you what you can't get, excluded values, they're asking you what could you get to there. I'm surprised nobody's asked me about number 9. Chase, what was your question? Because you were next on the list.
19.
19. Right? Okay. Chase, what do I have to do to get y by itself there?
Make minus 5, 6.
Did you?
No.
All right. Well, let's start with that. So it is 2/9 minus 5, 6. Now here is where you must be careful. By the way, what does that equal? A negative y. You can't just remove that little minus sign. Just know that when we solve it after that, it's going to be that. What's my common denominator, Chase? 18, thank you. This times 2, that times 2 is 4. This times 3, that times 3 is 15. And I've told you this before, 8th graders, and it's about time you start heeding this. Heeding, heading, heed.
I don't know.
Connor, you miss all the good ones. I'm sorry, this was what, 4/18? Sorry, let me change this. Where can I put this? Can I erase some stuff?
Yeah.
But what if you watch the video?
Well, then they have to watch from the beginning.
Watch, children, 8th grade. If you watch nothing else, watch this one. I have this right here. I have 4/18 minus 15. 18ths. Right? I have an 18 on the bottom of my fraction. I know that, that's a given. What's the top gonna be? You just have to think about this. If there's a minus sign here, put it next to the 15. If I have a 4 and a negative 15 and put those together, what dost thou get? Roberts, what is 4 minus 15?
Negative 11.
It is negative 11. And what does that negative 11 equal? Negative y. Because that y was negative when it started. I'll put it on the right side so that doesn't confuse you. Negative y equals negative 11/18. And the beauty of that is you can make this positive as long as you make that positive. It's the same thing. It's like multiplying both sides by a negative 1. Which you are allowed to do. You can multiply anything by any as long as you do both sides. So y actually equals 11/18. Or you could also think about it doing like this. I can move this y to that side by adding y to it, and I can move this to this side by adding 11/18. So positive y does equal 11/18. Thanks. We're getting so close. Spanish in a few minutes. Connor Morgan.
I'm on 15. How did you get 17?
Who?
And number 15.
Because 5 times 14 is 70.
Oh.
And that equals 7 times this quantity. That's why it was in parentheses. 7 times parentheses k minus 2. Sittler.
I'm confused on where I went wrong in number 10.
Concert tickets sell for $12.50 each on Fridays. 375 tickets are sold, and 20% of the money earned from ticket sales is donated to charity. How much donated to charity? Ladies and gentlemen, there are multiple ways to do this. Okay, probably the most logical one that you think of right now is you sold this many tickets at that price. How much money did you make? You have to multiply that together and then take 20% of that, or 1/5 of it, which is the same thing, fraction 1/5. But maybe it would be easier if you took 20% of this right away, because you know 20% of every ticket goes to that. So you could take 1/5 of this and then multiply by that way. It really doesn't matter. In other words, this is what I said you could do. You're going to take $12.50. You are going to multiply that by 375, right? But you're also then going to multiply that by 20%. And because it's all multiplication, it doesn't matter what order you do it in. If I were me, then I might make these all fractions and see if something cross cancels. 12.5 times 1, 375 over 1 times 20 over 100. Is that not 20%? Yes, it is, Mr. Hahn. It is. So you could do some cross canceling before you do all that long multiplication. This reduces to 1/5. 5 probably goes into 375. Anybody know? Is that too hard to do, Caleb? 75 times, isn't it? 5 goes in 375 75 times. So whatever you get when you multiply 12.5 times 75, remember this is money, will be your answer. 25, 2, 10, 12, 1, 5, 6, 0, 35, 3, 14, 17, 1, 8. I hope I get this right. Nothing looks worse than when I do this and get something wrong. $973.50?
Yeah.
Yes. You can do it in any order you want. If you didn't like the cross canceling, you could take 0.2, multiply it by this, and multiply it by this. You could take this times this, which is some big multiplication, multiply it by 0.2. It doesn't matter. Multiply, multiply, multiply. You may want to take your time on that tomorrow. That's why I did it wrong, because of silly mistakes. Lauren, I haven't heard from you today, other than this morning when you were late to class. Nothing? Jackson Roberts?
Did you already do 8?
Probably not. No, we haven't done a whole lot of them. 8 is really, it's a good, Jackson, this is a great lead into what I just did. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen, this is this times this. 37 over 1 times 9x over 1 times 1 over 37. What can cross cancel there? What, oddly enough, what number do you see on top and on bottom? Oddly.
Okay.
These 37s can cross cancel, and guess what you're left with? 9x times 1 over 1 times 1 times 1. It's just that easy. 9x. Ooh. Don't forget it. So,
106.
how would I do it? I would look in my notes where it says to make negative exponents become positive. Negative exponents made positive by doing what? Moving from top down or vice versa. Clausing, how do we explain missing 15 out of those 20 words? How does that happen?
I don't want to do this.
Couldn't you just wrote on there, I don't want to do this boundary? So that means this. Soph, did you ask this? Negative exponents are never our friends except in scientific notation. I just need to move this y to the -3 since it's on the bottom. I move it to the top and it becomes y to the +3. And that's it.
How?
There's nothing more to it. If it was a number, you could have, if it was 2, you could have multiplied 2 times 2 times 2 and got 8 or whatever. The number you can, letter you can't do it. But so might as well do this one here. 7. You can only put a squared b cubed together. Is there another a squared b cubed? Yes, right here. A squared b cubed. They can be in any order, it's just that they have to be exactly alike base to exponent. So if you have 3 of them and you take 2 of them away, how many are you left with? Just 1 of them. There's only one a squared b cubed. Are these 2 alike or not? Yes or no?
Yes.
Oh boy. Yes
Oh,
or
wait,
no?
Sorry.
Yes or
Yeah.
no?
Yes.
Yes or no? Take a stance, people.
Yes.
Yes or no? Take a
Yes.
stance.
Yes.
Are they both a b squareds? Yes, a b squareds. I have 3 of them. I take 2 of them away. What am I left with? Just 1 of them. Wait, somebody had a question. I didn't hear it though.
Yeah, I said, why would you add them? Because it was
I did add them. This was a -2 and a +3. I add those together, I get a +1. The beauty of integers, children. Adding is sometimes subtracting, and the reverse is true. Emma Miller?
For 3, is that line a positive or negative?
That's positive slope. Left to right, going uphill is positive slope. Just remember, to ski, you always want negative slope. That takes you down. Positive slope goes uphill. I'm still interested that nobody has asked me problem number 9. Does nobody need problem number 9? Raise your hand if you want me to do problem number 9. Oh, good, there are a couple. Ladies and gentlemen, rate of change. There's probably different ways you can think about this, but I always think if they ask you rate of change, they're actually asking you for slope. That's what rate of change is. And if it's rate of change, we have a slope formula.
Y equals other.
The slope formula is m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. This top thing, these are your x numbers. The bottom one is your y numbers. These are nothing more than ordered pairs turned on their sides or flipped around. This would be 2, 6 as an ordered pair. This would be 4, 12. And you can just plug those into this little formula. Let's make these the 2's and these the 1's. Y sub 2 is 12 minus y sub 1, which is 6, over x sub 2, which is 4, minus x sub 1, which is 2. I probably should have put parentheses, but we're running out of time. 12 minus 6 is 6. 4 minus 2 is 2. You get a 3, or 3 over 1. Did I say 3 over 1?
You just said
3 is the rate of change. Which most of you are going to say, well, hey, isn't that really the same thing as what do I multiply this by to get that? Times 3 times 3 times 3. Andrew, anything? No. You've got your dad as a backup, that's the deal. Is there any more?
I think we haven't, the only ones we haven't done are 11 and 15.
What about 1?
I'm sorry.
One, two,
I wrote those down.
Remember, greatest common factor is the biggest that you can take out of both. Biggest you can take out of. So they both have to have it, and you take the most that you can get out of it. If you have a 6 and a 9, the greatest factor is a 3. I have an x squared and an x. What's the most I can take out of both of them? Just one x. I can't take an x squared out of that. I have a y cubed and a y squared. What's the most I can take out of them? A y squared. They don't both have z, so I can't take a z out of them. This is my greatest common factor. Look at it, we're getting close. A square tile has a side length of 9x inches. It's square, each side is 9x. You just multiply 9x times 9x because it's side times side, and that's where 81x squared comes from. And what was it, 11? Oh, 11 you should have made a ratio box. It doesn't matter how you set it up, but I would go like this. If you want to go big triangle, small triangle, what are you going to compare? You can say the bottom line to the left line. Bottom on the big is 5. Bottom on the small is 4. Oh boy. The big left is x, and the big left, or the little left, is 2. So your ratio ends up looking like 5 over x equals 4 over 2. Oh no, I can't do that. Oh yeah, what would you do?
5 times
Cross multiply. 4 times x equals 10. Just divide by 4. Divide by 4. What does that equal? 5 halves, or 2.5. Whatever you want to say. Who feels good about this test? Do you really, Jackson? You're not just saying that to make you feel good, are you? Is that everything?